Hey, welcome to week 2. Today we're going to cover a few more exercises. We're going to start with something called rotation side. You're going to want something to rest your head on, so either a cushion from your couch or a pillow or a roller, whatever you've got handy. You're going to lay down on your side. And we're going to stretch out our arm in front of us so that we're not laying on our shoulder joint, but we're laying on our shoulder blade. We're going to have our knees and our hips stacked about 90 degrees and our ankles are together. And we want to think that our rib cage is stacked on top of our bottom rib cage and our hips are stacked on top of our bottom hips. We're just going to take our arm out in front of us, take a breath, and as we inhale, we're going to float our arm up, and you're going to open your arm and get a nice rotation for your ribs. Take a breath, float your arm back up, and exhale, close your arm. So I kind of think of like an alligator mouth, but you're going to really pay attention. Watch my head. It goes with the rest of my spine. So I'm going to inhale, float my arm up, exhale, open my arm out, inhale, float my arm up, and exhale, come back to side. So you're going to do this 5 times on each side. Let's do it 3 more times. Thinking about moving from your rib cage, not your low back, and thinking of filling your ribs with our breath, right? So think about that posterior lateral breath we were using last week. We want to continue to use that throughout our practice. And bring your hand back down. Nice job. Let's switch sides. So you're just going to have a little cushion or something for your head. You're going to bring your roller for your head, bring your arm out in front of you, and then think of being more on your shoulder blade than your shoulder joint. And then we're going to move from our rib cage to float our arm up, open the chest, inhale, float the arm back up, and exhale, close. Good. We want to make sure too that we're keeping our shoulders down away from our ears. We're not hiking our shoulders up toward our ears. And if you look at my hips stay pretty still. So I'm working on moving my rib cage without necessarily having to move my hips. And a lot of times when we have back pain or neck pain, our pelvis and our ribs don't move on their own. They have to all kind of move as one piece. I think that was 5. Let's just do one more. Inhale, float that arm up. Exhale, open. Inhale, float. And exhale, close. So let's move on to the next exercise, which is cat back. Now, cat back in Pilates is not the same as cat back in yoga. We're going to use this cat back to try to differentiate the pelvis and the ribs once again. So we're going to come onto our hands and our knees, and we want to think of our wrists being directly under our shoulder, and our knees are directly under our hips. And we're going to move our spine, but we're not going to move our femurs, our thigh bones, or our arms. So we're going to start in neutral. So last week we talked about neutral spine and tucking and tilting our pelvis into imprint and neutral. Hopefully you've been doing that all week long. Let's think about tucking our pelvis now into an imprint, but now our spine is not on the mat, it's up in space. So we're going to take a breath. Exhale, use our core to tuck the pelvis, and then we're going to round up our back and let our head come down so the crown of our head goes right towards the mat. We're going to take a breath here. We're going to exhale, untuck the pelvis to neutral, and then we're going to continue to lengthen the spine so the crown of our head goes back right in front of us. We're going to take a breath, exhale, tuck the pelvis, really trying to move the spine sequentially from the tail to the head. You're articulating to really get that space in between each vertebrae and separate so that each disc has its own space. And we're going to tuck and round up. Let the head come towards the mat. Take a breath. Keep your head towards your mat and think of lengthening your spine. Back to neutral. I'm going really slow and just trying to move my body, almost like a wheel, right? We're just kind of letting that spine move and articulate so that it gets nice and soft. so it's not moving so stiffly. Okay, the last exercise I'm going to give you this week is half roll back. Now, if you can sit on your sit bones, the bottom of your pelvis, and you can be on your sit bones and maintain a neutral spine, you can do this seated on the floor. But if you're really tight in your hamstrings and it forces your back so that your pelvis goes into a posterior tuck, you don't want to start there because that's kind of where we're going. So you want to think of sitting up on your sit bones. If this is too much tension in the front of your hips, or if you feel too tight in your low back, grab something to sit on. So I'm just going to use this pad for demonstration purposes. I'm going to sit up here and let my legs be in front of me. And we're going to try this two different ways. We're going to start out rounding back, rolling forward, and then articulating our spine up. And then we're going to try it with a rounded back. So we're going to do 3 of each. I would say start this week doing 3 of each, and then you can continue on doing 5 or 6 of whichever one you prefer. So for today, I'm just going to rest my hands on my legs right about my knees. I'm going to start in neutral spine, take a breath, and as I exhale, I'm going to tuck my pelvis. So now I'm moving my pelvis away from my thighs, my femurs, and I'm coming back. My ribs will bend in response to my low back bending, and then I'm going to take my body forward over my legs, and then I'm going to think about where I feel the bottom of my pelvis, my sit bones, and I'm going to articulate my spine 1 vertebrae at a time, coming to tall. So again, I'm going to take a breath. As I exhale, I'm going to tuck, use my core to round my pelvis, back of my femurs. Stay here, take a breath. Exhale, flex myself forward. Find my sit bones, and then articulate my spine. Shoulders stay down, and the head's the last thing to come up. And we're going to do that 1 more time. Just tuck the pelvis. It's nice and gentle. I'm not moving anything too, it's not too big of a range of motion. I'm not forcing anything, but I just want you to really get used to finding where your sit bones are and then getting your spine back to a neutral. So that's coming back into a straight back. Now let's just keep the back round for 3. Take a breath. Exhale, tuck the pelvis, round back. Take a breath. Now take your pelvis with you, take your spine with you, go forward, but now don't come into a straight back. Just go right back behind your sit bones and really feel your deep core working to maintain that scooped out abdomen. And then I'm coming forward, and then 1 more time I'm going to tuck back. I'm going to round forward, and then let's just go and stack the spine on that last one up nice and tall. Okay, so these are 3 more moves to getting your spine a little bit more flexible. Try these this week, and I'll be back next Monday with a few more moves.